When was the last time you were truly silent? Not just quiet, not just alone in a room, but genuinely, completely silent. No music, no podcast, no background noise, no phone in your hand, just you and whatever is actually living inside your head. If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. We live in a world that is terrified of silence. Every waiting room has a television. Every commute has a playlist. Every meal has a screen. We have engineered silence almost entirely out of modern life, and we've done it so completely that most people don't even notice it's gone. But the Stoics noticed. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they all wrote about silence, not as a spiritual luxury, not as something reserved for monks or mystics, but as a fundamental practice of a disciplined mind. And here's what they understood, that we've forgotten. The noise isn't just outside you, it's inside you, and until you stop feeding it, it never stops. Today, we're going to explore what actually happens to your mind when you commit to silence for 30 days. Not total silence, you can still talk, still work, still live your life, but deliberate, daily silence, a practice, a discipline. What changes? What breaks open? What you find waiting for you on the other side? Let's begin. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and became one of the most respected philosophers in Rome, had a rule about silence that his students were required to follow. He said, "Before you speak, ask yourself 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If it cannot pass all 3, stay silent." Now imagine applying that filter to not just what you say, but what you consume, what you watch, what you scroll through, what you let into your mind. Most of what fills our days would fail immediately. Seneca wrote, "Silence is not empty, it is full of answers." And Marcus Aurelius, in his private journal, a journal he never intended anyone to read, wrote to himself repeatedly about the discipline of withholding, of not reacting, of letting things pass without commentary. He called unnecessary speech one of the great wastes of a person's energy. Think about that. The man who commanded the Roman Empire, the most powerful person on earth, considered silence a form of power, not weakness, not passivity, discipline. The Stoics understood something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. Silence is not the absence of something, it is the presence of something, something essential, something we are systematically starving ourselves of. So what actually changes when you practice silence daily for 30 days? Here is what the Stoics would predict, and what experience confirms. The first week is the hardest. In the first 7 days, silence feels unbearable. You sit down to practice it, and within 60 seconds, your mind is already somewhere else. It is replaying a conversation from last week. It is drafting an argument you'll never have. It is rehearsing a future that may never come. This is not failure. This is the first and most important discovery of the practice. You find out just how loud your inner world actually is. Most people never sit still long enough to hear it. The noise of the outside world drowns it out perfectly. But the moment you remove the external noise, the internal noise becomes impossible to ignore. Seneca wrote, "The first step toward wisdom is knowing how much you do not know." The first week of silence teaches you something similar. You realize how little control you have over your own mind. And that realization, uncomfortable as it is the beginning of everything. By week 2, something shifts. The energy chatter doesn't disappear, but you start to observe it differently. Instead of being swept along by every thought, you begin to watch them, like sitting on a riverbank and watching the water move, rather than being in the river itself. This is what the Stoics called prosopsynich, self-attention, the ability to witness your own mind without being ruled by it. You start to notice patterns you never saw before. You notice which thoughts you return to obsessively, which fears you carry with you everywhere, which resentments you're still holding, long after the moment that created them has passed. This is not comfortable, but it is invaluable. By week 3, clarity begins. Something unexpected starts to happen. Decisions that felt complicated begin to simplify, not because your circumstances have changed, but because the noise that was distorting your judgment has gotten quieter. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, but you cannot access that power through noise. You can only find it in stillness." By week 3, people report that they speak less, but what they say lands harder. They react less, but when they do act, it is with far more intention. They stop filling every empty moment with stimulation and start to notice that the empty moments are not actually empty at all. By week 4, you meet yourself. This is the part that is hardest to describe and most important to understand. After 30 days of regular silence, most people report one thing above all others. They feel like they finally know what they think, not what they've been told to think, not what the feed told them to feel, not the performance they put on for the world, what they as a person alone, beneath all the noise, actually believe, value and want. Seneca called this the return to oneself, and he believed it was the whole point of philosophy, not to become impressive, not to have the right opinions, but to come home to yourself, to know who you are when no one is watching and nothing is playing. Now, how do you actually do this? Because here is where most people get it wrong. They hear practice silence and imagine sitting cross-legged for 2 hours in complete stillness. That is not the practice. That is not what the Stoics did, and for most people it is not realistic. The practice is simpler and far more powerful precisely because of its simplicity. Here is the 30-day silence practice, built on Stoic principles. Step 1. 1 hour. No input. Every day. For 1 hour. No phone, no music, no podcasts, no television, no conversation that is not necessary. You can walk, you can sit, you can cook or clean, but no deliberate consumption of information or entertainment. Just you, moving through your day, with your own mind for company. 1 hour. That is all. Step 2. 5 minutes of complete stillness. Within that hour, find 5 minutes where you are entirely still, sitting, eyes open or closed, doesn't matter, just breathing, not trying to think of nothing, not trying to meditate perfectly, just sitting and watching what the mind does. This is your daily mirror. What you see in those 5 minutes will tell you more about the state of your inner life than any journal, therapy session, or self-help book. Step 3. The Stoic Evening Review. At the end of each day before you sleep, spend 3 minutes in silence reviewing one question only. Did I react today or did I respond? Reaction is unconscious. It is the automatic firing of an emotion before the mind has engaged. Response is deliberate. It is choosing, consciously, how to act. The more silence you practice, the more you will find yourself responding instead of reacting. And that single shift, that single quiet shift, will change your relationships, your work, your decisions, and your sense of self more profoundly than almost anything else you could do. There is a reason the most respected figures in history, philosophers, leaders, artists, warriors, all had one practice in common. Not the same diet, not the same routine, not the same philosophy even. Silence. Because silence is where you find out what is actually true. About the world, yes, but more importantly, about yourself. In a world that profits from your distraction, choosing silence is a radical act. It is, in the deepest Stoic sense, an act of freedom. Because you cannot be free if you cannot sit alone with your own thoughts without reaching for something to dull them. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do, but you cannot hear the first part, what you would be, above the noise." The silence is not the destination, it is the door. 30 days, 1 hour a day, 5 minutes of stillness. That is all it takes to begin meeting the person you were before the world told you who to be. Start tonight. And if this video gave you even one moment of stillness, 1 second where something clicked, hit the like button and subscribe. More of this is coming, and you won't want to miss it.